I'm called to order the January 23rd regular city council meeting at 6 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas pledge.
One state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, we've got a lot of people who want to speak at public comments. So at this time, we'd like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker. Shall be limited to city business or city-related business or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks. In accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name and address clearly into the microphone before making your comments. Rebecca Lufbro, come up.
Rebecca Lufboro, 414 Magnolia Estates Drive, League City. So I've never done this before, y'all, so y'all just bear with me here. So first of all, thank you for listening. I know all of y'all have a lot of things on your plate and ways that you want to improve the City of Seabrook. So I just appreciate you coming to listen to those of us that really care about this cat situation. I'm not here as an expert really on anything. I'm basically here tonight as an animal lover and someone that has actually rescued my whole life. So I do have a lot of experience with rescuing these babies, and a lot of these babies that someone might deem as wild or feral. I do have a lot of experience rescuing them. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. I saw a post on Facebook briefly about needing some help down in the Seabrook area with a colony of cats. Again, I don't like the word feral. I prefer to call them pretty much abandoned. But anyway, so the goal, when I got involved with this group of people, the goal really was to first feed, or at least this was my idea of a goal, was to first feed to mainly keep them alive, so that past that point, we could figure out what we needed to do with them. And in my mind, it was feed, trap, basically rescue, and rehome. And I know it's impossible to do that with all the cats down there. I was blown away when I saw how many of them there were down over by the fish markets. But I decided I was going to give it a shot and really just try to do as much as I could and help where I can. And let's see here. Let me just glance over here real quick. So, and I do have an experience I'm not real crazy about. Just a few weeks ago, I was one of them. I got a ticket for feeding wild animals. And so, so now I'm facing a $500 fine. And I have a date with a prosecutor, and it is not a dinner date. So, and I guess when it happened, I was really caught off guard because not once did I ever believe that I was feeding wild animals. I mean, I've rescued cats my whole life, and I've brought them into my home once. I mean, a lot of them people would have absolutely deemed wild if you'd seen them out there. They hiss, they run, but once you get these babies in your home, they're just sweethearts. And so, anyway, looks like my time is running out here really quick. I think I'm mainly here tonight to just, request that the City of Seabrook, my main goal really was to hopefully get cats off the wild animal list. I don't think they've been on that list for a long, long time, but I did understand that about 3 years ago, feral cats or abandoned cats were labeled wild. And if I could say anything tonight to just, help with that process, I mean, I would love it if we could, at a minimum, get cats off that wild animal list, because if you've had experience with them, even in the wild, they're not wild animals at all. So anyway, I'd love to see that law changed, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Joanne Ashland? What?
My name is Joanne Ashland. I'm here as an advocate for the humane treatment of animals, and specifically, oh, I'm sorry. Just got in. 307 El Toro Lane, Webster, Texas, which is City of Houston. I've been helping my neighborhood with the post-pandemic overpopulation of cats and dogs. To date, since July of 2022, that is 25 cats, 20 kittens, and 6 dogs, equals 51. Okay? A lot of it out of my own pocket. I'm working right now with the Friends of League City Animal Shelter, and I see faces that I recognize here as well. I have observed what has happened in Seabrook, and I believe that there is a positive solution to create a similar citizen network, even nonprofit organization, such as a Friends of Seabrook Cats, or if you want to use an acronym of FOSTER, Friends of Seabrook, toward every rehomed. I have been a nonprofit treasurer for over 30 years for at least 5 organizations, and served in capacities for director of education and president of nonprofits here. I'm an auditor by training, certified internal auditor, information systems auditor, and I work in security at this point at a major hospital. My point is, and I printed things out not to present to you tonight, but to wave at you and say that we can have private meetings on this over time. The law, as enacted as an amendment to the Texas Penal Code, was House Bill 3660 as of June 10th or 13th of last year. You'll recognize 3 names from the local area: Briscoe Kane from Deer Park, Craig Vasut from the Houston area, and a name I'm sure everyone recognizes, John Whitmire. He was the author of the 2007 animal cruelty law for the state of Texas in the Penal Code. And so he is the one that amended it. In the stack of papers that I brought, I printed out the resources we have in the greater Houston area, and they are many. These are organizations within the local communities, both governmental and nonprofit. Many of them are partners with the cities themselves or the local communities. I have also worked with Randy Wallace of Fox 26 and was on TV last February with 2 pit bulls and a Beagle Lab mix. So I'm there, I put my money where my mouth is. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. What we can do is work towards the identifying, cataloging, trapping, licensing, microchipping, identifying, and then begin to work to a triage to rehome what we can. We've identified that there are animals that are out there that have been microchipped and were actually dropped by other people. The people to prosecute are those who dump, not those who, in the interim, make an effort to, in the interim, provide the humane feeding, which, by the way, the health and safety law requires of those who manage or otherwise care for, including in your jurisdiction. They must feed and house properly those animals and care for them, so it is not considered cruel and inhumane treatment. Therefore, I want to be part of the solution. I want to work towards an organization that can help you and be part of your rescue and also, solution to the situation. Don't treat it as a problem. I guess we can see in finishing that it's a good public policy.
Sorry, your time is up. Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Hey, let's, Jeff Ingbar? Let's keep your applause down, people. Let's have some decorum. This is a city council meeting.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff, guests. My name's Jeff Ingbrock. I live at 106 Barron Ridge, Seabrook, Texas. I really appreciate your willingness to serve on the committee, serve on the council, and provide me the opportunity to address you. Basically, just talking briefly about the cat colonies by the fish market and the TNR method, the trap, neuter, release method. Just go into, I know it's not y'all's fault, or the City of Seabrook, or the cat's fault that they're there. It's definitely the irresponsible owners that left them there. I know that no one on this council, hates cats or wishes them any harm. And, I understand that, you have limited resources you have to work through. I actually work at a state agency, and we have a budget, and I mean, you can't get everything. But I have definitely seen the cat population increase substantially over the last 5 to 7 years. During the last cold snap, my daughter, wife, and I went out there, and I mean, it was just amazing how many cats were out there at night. And they really range from, what I would consider completely wild or needing a lot of help to get them from being wild to kittens and cats that'll jump in your car. I mean, jump in your arm. I mean, there were cats purring when I was illegally pouring down food the other day. And, I know we all have a phone in our pocket, and you can find a wealth of information on these different methods, the good and the bads. Based on my research, I feel, and I think most agree, that the trap, neuter, release method is really the only effective method to reduce the community cat population. The old-fashioned way of trapping and killing has been used by agencies for years, and I couldn't find a single community anywhere that had worked for. I still got some time. What you'll find is there's sort of a maximum amount that can live in a population area. And so what really a lot of these scientists and these studies were showing is that you go out there, you knock them half down, they just have twice as many babies the next 6 months. And then, 6 months later, you're back to the same number you were at. And, I just think, so I guess I'm just wanting to speak with you that I've seen those cats and I feel really bad for them. I'm not a extreme, animal lover, cat lover. I'll take a dog over a cat, to be honest with you. But I do own some cats, but, and I'm not trying to say that trap, neuter, release program would reduce the number of cats on the street, but I think it would definitely limit the number of new kittens out there. Some of them die from exposure. Some of them make it all the way and just become part of the problem. And I feel that evidence really supports the effectiveness of using the TNR method, and over time reducing the amount of the cats and the costs, to the city, which is, very important always. I just want to point out that it just really seems like the current process is not working. The population out there is exploding. Animals are suffering, and the costs have to, continue to rise. And so I would just like to, us to look for some other solution, see what we could find out. And I guess that was really all I had, but I thank you a lot for your time, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Michael. Bonnie Frankham?
Hi, my name is Bonnie Frankham. I live at 15015 Coral Sands, Houston. I grew up here, though, went to school here. My mom still lives here, and the city is dear to me. Seabrook has a cat problem, especially on Waterfront Drive by the fish markets, and I will refer to this area as the point going forward. There are about 100 cats struggling to survive, especially those that have been dumped. Many of the dumped cats are friendly, but scared. They are not wildlife. Many are abandoned pets. They do not know how to survive on the streets, hence the compassionate feeding. Within the past month, we have rescued 3 friendly cats at the point. They were altered and found homes, and one had a microchip, and I found the owner. And there are more, and I wanted to question why we're spending resources ticketing compassionate feeders who see the suffering versus taking them to the new shelter and putting a stop to the dumping. Because of the overpopulation, the cats are suffering and hungry, and I offer a solution. It's TNR. T is for trap, N is for neuter or spay and vaccinate, and R is for return. Yes, return. We don't relocate or euthanize, and I don't have time tonight in 4 minutes to explain the proven scientific phenomena of the vacuum effect or the successes of TNR with tons of case studies, but TNR does stabilize the cat population, and it will slowly diminish. It keeps the male cats from roaming and fighting, and it keeps the female cats from having litter after litter. TNR keeps the cats healthier and makes them better neighbors. They also provide free pest and rodent control, which the fish market owners rely on. But I have better proof than case studies right across the channel at Kima Boardwalk. I started a TNR program there in 2016. They had over 100 cats. And now in 2024, there's less than 50. I have not seen a new litter of kittens at the boardwalk since 2020. Management and groundkeepers, they've told us that the cats have never looked better, and it's a win-win situation for the boardwalk, for the cats, and for the customers who enjoy seeing healthy cats. In 2018, I started a TNR program at the point. By 2019, we had fixed over 100 and found homes for many, about a half dozen friendly cats. Then COVID hit, and my husband had a near fatal accident, so I had to stop. 4 years have gone by, no TNR at the point, and reproduction has continued, and so does the dumping. The cat population is out of control again, and you're always going to have cats at a place where there's a food source, such as as dumpsters or restaurants, and where there's shelter. You will not get rid of them. Would you rather the population there be stable and healthy, or would you rather the population continue to soar with sick and starving cats? And this is what happens if you continue to believe that TNR does not work and do nothing. One pregnant cat and her offspring will produce about 400,000 cats in 7 years. TNR is the humane and effective approach to manage the cat population, and I am willing to help finish and maintain TNR at the point. Not a dime on your part. So let's work together to make Seabrook, to have a compassionate solution for Seabrook. And in the meantime, if I can pick up these friendly cats and rehome them, why can't animal control bring them to your new shelter and find them homes and give them a second chance? They should do that.
Thank you. Patricia Rukowski, pronounce that for me? She will.
Hi there, Patricia Vidleski, 4757 Oakmont Court, League City, Texas. I applaud all the speakers before me. They had excellent things to say, and they were awesome. So I am in League City. I am TNR certified by the Community Cats National Organization. For years, I've been running the League City Animal Shelter Working Cat Program. Most recently, I placed 3 cats at the Bay Oaks Golf Course. The rats eat the wiring and the equipment, and that costs a lot of money. And I'm also on the League City Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. So I want to just talk about TNR. So you've heard quite a bit about TNR, and it is really effective, the trap, neuter, and return. As Bonnie said, population control is key, right? You're not having these kittens and the reproduction cycle on the streets and the suffering. It's a lot of hardship, and when you spay and neuter them, then you're not having babies that your shelter and other organizations now have to go out and rescue. That's a lot of work taking care of baby kittens. They take a lot of money. It's humane to control the population versus euthanasia. TNR respects the natural instincts of these cats. And it has a positive effect on the cat's behavior. They're not yowling, mating, creating those kind of disturbances in the neighborhood and in the area. The males aren't fighting, getting really badly injured, fighting for mates. So it really improves the quality of people and the other animals in the neighborhood. Economically speaking, it makes financial sense. The cost of spaying or neutering is significantly lower than the expenses associated with trapping, housing, and euthanizing. TNR programs are often run by dedicated volunteers and organizations, so you can get the community involved. It reduces strain on the shelter because you're not burdened with all these kittens, and you can focus on finding homes for the cats that really need it. There's also health benefits for the cats because you're going to take them to get spayed. The vet's going to just take a cursory look at them, make sure they're in okay enough shape to go back out, give them their vaccinations, check for mites, maybe give them an ivermectin injection. And like I said before, the community involvement is huge. You're going to get support, I think, from the community in terms of donations, in terms of vet care, low-cost spay-neuter. The community will really rather rally around this and help you. I think a lot of people are going to help volunteer. I talked about the economic efficiency and the long-term impacts, like Bonnie pointed out on the boardwalk. Your community of cats is stable, and then it's just attrition, right? Because you're not birthing anymore. Since I got a little bit more time left, I think the vacuum effect that Bonnie was going to talk about, it's a study that shows if you have like 3 feeders and and you have 3 mama cats and they're all eating, if you take one of the mama cats away and euthanize her, the other 2 pregnant mama cats have more food. They're going to have a more robust litter. More of their offspring are going to survive because now that mama cat's fed. Instead of 3 feeders feeding 3 cats, you got 3 feeders now feeding 2 cats. Those 2 mama cats are going to have more robust litter. That's not actually the vacuum effect, but anyway, it is why it's important. You're not going to just reduce feeders and then reduce or take the cats and euthanize them. Other cats will move in and they will be robust. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you all entertaining this topic here, and I'm delighted that Seabrook is going to consider these kinds of things. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dory Nelson.
Hi, I'm Dory Nelson, 642 Bay Club Drive. Thank you for listening to all of us. I'm here to talk about TNR as the only effective way to control and manage abandoned domestic cats at the point and wherever. Sure, there's always poisoning, but that has its problems. There's trap and euthanize. That's another problem because that vacuum effect, once you eliminate extra cats, more cats move in. doing nothing, as we've been doing now, just ticketing volunteers, is really not helping any situation. But then there's TNR, which I know that TNR works because I have seen it done, and I have done it with help. I had some wonderful volunteers from Second Chance Pets. Her name was Susan Stevenson, and she has helped other people here eliminate large cat colonies that tend to show up at a couple of our restaurants. But I've seen it done, and these volunteers helped me to eliminate 2 colonies in Seabrook parks. The one that I'm proudest of is Pine Gully Park. Of course, people had dumped cats there because of the fish cleaning station. There used to be was a fishing pier, and there was a fish cleaning station. And so cats, they had a field day there. And when I came there to the park, it was at least 15 years ago, maybe a little more, we had 27 cats and kittens there. And Susan Stevenson from Second Chance and I trapped and had those 27 cats neutered and returned to the park. We had trapped, neutered, released. It's at no cost to Seabrook. The grant that Susan had through Second Chance was with Animal Alliance down in Lamarck. And they would take in 5 ferals early in the morning, very, very early, like 6:30 in the morning. They would take, as long as you bring in these abandoned cats in a trap, they neutered them for nothing. And several were friendly, and we found adoptive homes for them. I fed the remaining cats when they came back, after they had been neutered and rabies shot. And as a couple more appeared, we TNR'd them too. The colony, eventually, it took years, of course. It was slow, it was humane, it was fed every single day, and it took a long time, but they disappeared. I mean, the colony was eliminated, and that's the whole point of TNR, is to eliminate the huge numbers and bring it down. But it took a long time. But I had a lot of volunteers in the community who cared about the main solution to the problem, and people noticed that we did achieve that. I also had help from Stephanie Schottel from Upper Toddville, who trapped and brought them in for neutering. These were successive ones when people would drop off a box of kittens. Can you imagine? They'd leave it there by the gate, and we had to do something with them. And of course, Stephanie and I helped them grow a little bit and took them in for neutering and found them homes. She was very good at that. When you think about it, as a community, we want a humane solution. The community garden was a good environmentally friendly solution.
Time's up, Dory.
For a bare piece of land. Surely these volunteers are needed too, to provide, I'm leaving, a humane solution for an old problem.
Good night.
I was trying to sum it up. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dory. Appreciate it. Sally?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sally Antropos, and I live at 526 Surf Oaks Drive. I'm on the Seabrook Open Space and Trails Committee, but I'm here in a private capacity tonight just to offer some thoughts. First, I want to underscore what Dory said. I want to be sure that you are all aware that she and volunteers that she coordinates have eliminated 2 colonies in Seabrook, like she said. Bigger one was at Pine Gully, the smaller one was at Robinson Park, where the Red Bluff intersects Tardville Road. I don't think I need to tell you what TNR stands for anymore. And I think you've heard from the rather enthusiastic volunteers who've come to speak that it takes time. It's not a quick solution. So we have to be patient. I think you've also heard them all say adoption is one of the components of it as well. There should be an A, TNR-A, and adoption, because it makes a world of difference, especially with kittens. So typically, TNR is portrayed as and succeeds as a kind of win-win situation, where the feral cats that are too wild for adoption are going to be fed so that that reduces the predation on native wildlife. And, those that can be adopted, especially kittens, can be removed from the population. You also have daily feeding, frequent volunteers who get to know all of the individuals in this colony. So they know when there's a new one that's appeared that needs to be neutered. Anyway, so the first colony eliminated was Pine Gully, the second one was Robinson. Not all TNR programs succeed. They take a lot of work, but they can succeed. And Harris County supports by encouraging use of discounted spaying and neutering services. They have a list to offer. So I want to encourage the Seabrook Council members to direct animal control staff not to be challenging the TNR volunteers, but to support them in whatever way we can. It's the most effective and the least controversial way of addressing the problem of feral cats, even though it's slow. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sally. Monica Milken?
Monica Milliken, 934 Plantation, League City. I really appreciate the fact that the Seabrook Council is willing to let people outside the city speak, because we've had these experiences before in other cities. I have had, and yes, I am a cat lady. I've had 15 years of my life spent in advocacy and action for animals. I've had a lot of successes through the years. One was to get League City to the position of being no-kill, and two, to get a new shelter in League City. But that doesn't have anything on y'all, because y'all have a beautiful new shelter also. And you have a compassionate community. That's proven by the fact that you have that new shelter. So I think that if you will allow the volunteers that you see here with all this energy to help come together and to have conversations where bring all the stakeholders to the table, discuss the problems, discuss the solutions respectfully, and a solution will come. And TNR is really the best solution because it is the most humane way to deal with it. There's benefits to the community for having the feral cats around the point because there's a food source there. You've heard a couple of people say that they've closed down certain colonies. That's possible, but not when you have a food source, because you don't have a feral colony back there, and you know why? Because you don't have a food source. But where there is a food source, you are always going to have a colony because there is a food source. The problem with the colony in and around a food source is when they're allowed to reproduce and the colony outgrows the food source. That's when they become a nuisance. So TNR is the most humane way to maintain a balance of the population to the food source. So as long as there is that food source, they're providing a service because they're cleaning up the point and the waste that is created by the fish markets. It's just a balance of keeping it in sync. So if you will take this on and allow a number of us to help, I want to commit that my organization, which began as Friends of League City Animal Shelter, but has now morphed into League City Pets Alive, we'll cross over the pond and come over here and help. We will help, my organization will help with the costs of spay-neutering and with the placement of adoptable cats. We have adoptable cats in 6 different pet supply stores, 2 Petcos, 2 PetSmarts, and 2 Pet Supplies Plus. And in 2023, we adopted out 300 cats from those condos. So we certainly have the capacity to help with the adoption of the adoptable cats, which will help. But the ones that are not adoptable need to be able to return to where they came from, live off of the food source, live off of the compassionate feeders, but to be able to live their life out. If there are no food sources, then the colony will disappear. If there are food sources, the colony is always going to be there, in which case you definitely need somebody responsible for that colony to watch and know when new cats arrive, so they know that the new cat needs to be sterilized immediately. And once you do that, you can then determine, is that new cat a dump, in which case it's friendly and can be adopted, or is it a feral cat, in which case it can go back into the feral community and live its life out. So what I want you to know is, if you'll bring the community together, you have a lot of compassionate people that will help, and I'm one of them.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that didn't sign up that wants to speak? You already spoke. Yes.
I've given Lonnie a copy of what I said I had the resources as. You can pass this along to
You can just give it to city manager.
you guys can take a look at what resources there are available here, even locally. So that's my intent, is to have you know that there are those. I just had a rubber band.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on this subject or any other subject?
Hey, let me talk about the fire department. Let me just, about the fire department rescuing those people.
That's next.
I'd just like to reach out to the Seabrook Fire Department. Yesterday, they rescued 5 members of the Meadow Brady Book Club that were trapped in an elevator. Yes, and
Including your wife.
yes, and I got a firsthand report from my wife that she was one of them, and so, job well done, gentlemen.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Okay. Item 1.1, Mayor, City Council, and/or members of city staff may make an announcement about city public community events. Rob.
Well, good evening. Coming up on Wednesday, January 31st, from 5 to 7 p.m., here at the City Hall grounds is Community Shred Day. So break out all those 20-year-old copies of your IRS paperwork you never turned in, bring them here and get rid of them. Coffee with a Cop, Saturday, February 3rd at 9 to 11, right over here at the Community House. Those are good events. And on February 6th, Men Who Cook, like it is every year at Lakewood Yacht Club. If you're available, go buy a ticket. Anything else?
Anybody? No, thanks, Rob. 2.0 presentations. 2.1, recognition of Seabrook emergency first responders who took life-saving action in the community. Kevin?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight we want to recognize some of our first responders. On September 23rd, 2023, Seabrook first responders were dispatched to the intersection of Highway 146 in Rexdorf for a reported motor vehicle collision. Upon arrival, crews observed 2 patients unconscious laying in the roadway. The female patient was unconscious but breathing, and there was a male patient who was found unconscious with slow, shallow respirations and extensive trauma. The male patient went into cardiac arrest during the initial assessment by the paramedics. At that time, the EMS crew began CPR, and after 2 minutes, the patient had regained a pulse and began to breathe on his own again. The rapid actions of the first responders significantly resulted in the saving of a life that evening. So I want to ask that is he here? Austin's not here. These are these were our victims that were in the accident that evening, and glad to be able to do it.
To y'all, thank y'all very much. Real close call. You never think you need nobody till it's time to give them a call, but without y'all, we definitely would not be here right now, that's for sure. Got the 5 kids we were able to go home to.
Wow.
Lieutenant Wood with EMS, he couldn't be here this evening, but we have Justin Amaro. Is Jackson here? Y'all come forward, please, when I call your name. Jackson's not here? Marshall. Chief Douglas. Chief Bristow. Andy Goodacre's not here. Jimmy Hart. Is Jessica here? Jessica? Hey, Chief. Jordan? He's not here tonight. Ethan? Jared's not here. Gary? Chief Castiglione's not here this evening. Robert Osment? Nope. Nadine? They dispatch him. Derek, Jason Emerson, Felipe Gutierrez, Sierra Jones, Austin Minnick, and Sergeant Oubre from PD. So we want to thank all of you for coming out. Or they're in other parts of the country. I get you one. We'll do it down.
Okay, that'll be easy. Y'all ready? 1, 2. Oh, she's. Thank you.
Hopefully it'll be on each other's head.
Okay, moving on, item 2.2, Presentation to recognize Athena's Corner as the Seabrook Economic Development Corporation's Business of the Year for 2023. Gail.
Can you hear me? Okay. So this is, I know we have Mr. Bell here from EDC. Kevin, if you guys will come on up. Is anybody else I'm missing from EDC? Council, this is an annual award that the EDC members come together and give nominations and then deliberate. And so Athena's Corner has been our recipient this year of the EDC Business of the Year Award. And if you guys will go ahead and step forward, we have Maria and Demetris. Maria couldn't join us tonight, but these are the owners of Athena's Corner and recipient of the award tonight. So we'd like to thank Athena's Corner. They've only been with us about a year. And if you have not had the opportunity to drop by there, they really, I think with the nomination of the EDC and some of the comments made, really shown a small business into the city of Seabrook. Their cuisine is just amazing, and they've really been a warm welcome to our small business community. So congratulations to you guys, and I'll present this award on behalf of EDC, and our members here will take a picture with you. Maria, Demetris, is there anything y'all would like to say?
We love this community so much. We're so grateful for all the support that we've gotten from everyone. We're just a small little family looking to serve the community, and it's so just nice to see all the support that we've gotten, and we just look forward to being a staple in this community for many, many, many years to come. So please come visit us and eat some of the love that we have to share with everyone. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Item 3.0, Boards and Commissions. 3.1, consider and take all appropriate action on reappointment of 3 members to the Seabrook Board of Adjustment Building Standards Commission for terms to expire January 1st, 2026. Are any of the candidates here? Okay. Yeah, do we have to do it now? Do I hear a motion?
I move to reappoint Michelle Glazer, Mr. No, and Munez to the Board of Adjustments.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. 3.2, consider and take all appropriate action on the reappointment of 1 member to the Civil Service Commission for a term to expire June 1st, 2026.
I move to reappoint Mr. Dean.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. 4.0, the consent agenda. 4.1, approve the minutes from the meeting of December 19th, 2023.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
4.2, consider and take all appropriate action on approval of a second reading of ordinance 2023-33, master fee schedule update. An ordinance amending the code of the City of Seabrook to update Appendix B entitled Master Fee Schedule by updating and amending parks and recreation fees, building department fees, impact fees for new construction, and sanitation garbage collection fees, making findings of fact, repealing and replacing all references to such fees and charges in all ordinances or resolutions in conflict herewith within this ordinance, providing for the severability and providing for notice and effective date.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 5.0, new business. 5.1, consider and take all appropriate action on matters relating to a presentation regarding the street pavement management program and adoption of a methodology for future capital project planning. Gail.
Mayor and council, pulling up a presentation that was previously posted as an item for this agenda. And where I wanted to take council through this presentation is where we left off. As you will note, we have bond counsel and our financial advisor present. And we'll later in this meeting be talking about the certificates of obligation and bond debt. But leading up to that, this is picking up where we discussed possible debt for street improvements in the summer during the budget workshop. So we'll go through where we left off and some questions that you guys had when we left those workshops, which was in addition to the East Meyer and North Meyer streets that we identified, what other streets and what our plan was for those potential replacements or rehabs. So we talked about what we call the CIP, and that was approved during the budget process. We identified under the street section Seascape 2, Baybrook 3, based on age. Main Street, Hardesty, and North Meyer were introduced as part of the Livable Center study, as part of some implementable projects in the back. And then we also had our developer-driven streets, which are Commercial Road and Starboard. We then moved on, and after the torrential summer that we had, the drought conditions, we've had some weather effects on East Meyer and North Meyer. So during the budget workshops, those were introduced that we were having condition changes over there, and those, given the activity with the detours off 146, had elevated to a condition that we had deemed a high priority. Again, as the discussion continued through the workshops, there was a need for council to understand the conditions of all the streets. So since we met in the summer, we did implement a AI technology that allows Public Works and Engineering to drive all of the city streets, and they have done that with this tool. This tool is an aid to allow our director and assistant director to not only do site visits on each one of the streets, but have some technology to look at the conditions or the pavement index that we'll talk about here in just a moment. So this technology was implemented to assist and to help us build a more robust look at all of our streets and give a pavement index indicator on all of them. The goal in doing this is that we'll ultimately add to our CIP what we'll call a pavement management program. And this will help our Public Works and Council to see at any given time what our approach would be for each one of these streets. And hopefully to, over time, identify where we can grab streets, rehab them before a possible reconstruction, ultimately with the goal of trying to save money long-term. So as a recap, the city streets that we're responsible for through Public Works is approximately 49 total miles. Of those, we have 19 that are concrete, 13 miles that are asphalt, and then we have about 17 miles that are a combination with some asphalt, concrete, or dirt that are kind of off the network and not used. Our average overall condition with this tool that we used is all the streets, about 87%, so our overall average is not too bad. We do, as a reminder, have streets that are maintained by the county, and those are Red Bluff and Toddville, and then streets that are maintained by the state, which is our wonderful 146 and NASA Parkway. So the pavements, just as we're building a program, and this is going to be expanded as we move forward, but when we look at the different pavements, as you guys know, we have a lot of asphalt streets throughout our network, and East Meyer, North Meyer are a perfect example of load failure. So we've obviously had some trucks that have made it through detours and onto Meyer, so you guys can tell the examples here of where we've had multiple load failures. We've had spot repairs by Public Works, but there's only so many spot repairs that you can do before a full repair is needed. So as we moved into how do we pay for some of the larger projects, as you recall, we looked at East Meyer and North Meyer equating to both of those projects individually costing an estimated $5 million each. We talked about how we were going to fund those. So right now, we take care of all of our maintenance within a maintenance line item in Public Works. We also have waste management franchise fees that come in. We take those, save them into the CIP fund for also projects street-related because of the wear and tear on the streets. But this year, for examples, we've only invested $50,000 for fiscal year '24. So the $50,000 is what we will take and do all of the spot repairs with those type of pavement improvements. A snapshot historically, we've kind of had a long time since we've really invested this much money back into the streets. Again, kind of relying on what we've had in the CIP to do one single street. So you can see in the snapshot, looking back just a few years, we've done some work on North Flamingo, Cedarbrook, Delabrook. And then as we got back into the early 2000s, we did some actual thoroughfare where most of our money landed, which was the expansion of Lakeside and the creation of the more widened rep store. So it's been some time since we really pushed this much money back into the network. Again, moving forward, our plan and hopefully kind of communicating to council that we'll hopefully with the debt be able to partner that and leverage those monies with Harris County, for instance, partnership grants and other grants that may come available. And if that's the case, then our ability to take those surplus funding from the debt that we are still going to be discussing tonight would then flow into other streets that we've identified in the network. We'll continue to look at, with this policy, implementing engineering policy that will help us construct more robust streets going forward. Again, we've mentioned we've got a lot of asphalt streets. With the policy that we'll put in place, we'll have certain thresholds that will go back with concrete in lieu of asphalt. And then look at this on an annual basis. So we'll have that system, not to say that council at any time can't come and look at a single street, but for us coming to you once a year during the budget process, it will not be as disconnected. We'll have our tool, our AI tool, to help us with that asset management. I believe that's it. This is a screenshot of just kind of an example of what Kevin and Brian are working with behind the scenes. So the software is called Road AI. It really gives them a mapping system of what you see in the picture of the color-coded pavement indexing, so red being worse, green being best, and in between, and then puts it into a spreadsheet along with hyperlinks. The picture that you see in the bottom left actually takes, within those segments, actual pictures to cross-reference and hyperlink with those pavement indexes. So it gives, every time they drive it, real-time information, and they can build upon this index every time that they drive through the city. Just as a reminder also, as we break down our network, we've got the 49 miles, so I just wanted to do a snapshot of what the classifications are. So as we go into looking every year at which street we need to tackle next, the pavement classification is going to come into play. The human aspect, which is Kevin and Brian looking at these things. For instance, East Meyer, North Meyer, we all know became a heavily unexpected detour for 146. And those arterials sometimes will be more priority than our local streets. While we have more local streets, some of the volumes don't compare to some of the volumes that we're seeing on the arterials, which is what they're constructed for. And you put the stresses on them, and it raises that. Overall view of what we attained from that AI software, again, overall, we've got good conditions on overall of our network, but we do have some that are in the very poor to poor, and this has identified those. And then again, breaking them out by classification, we'll look at that as we move forward. So again, overall, we look good. Overall, our network is well maintained by Public Works based on what we've had to put back into it. We do have some local streets that are in pretty bad shape, and on average, as we drive it, we're noticing that loss is creeping up on those. So that's why it's important for us to have created some kind of a methodology to come to council and let you know that how we're looking at that along with the human factor and prioritizing that for however you decide to spend the funds for streets. So for 2023, we will start a condition index, and I'll show you, and you also have a hard copy in front of you of how we've started to color code those. We will, in a program that you'll see as we roll out into the next budget season, we'll come up with thresholds of what that percentage is. We will try to tackle the ones that are in better percentage condition rather than our lower ones that may need a complete rehab. And work this very similar to what you're accustomed to with our CIP projects, which is making sure that we keep the cost estimates current. And then as you look at CIP projects, we'll move those approved projects over to that fiscal year CIP. So again, the sheet that I passed out before you that has all the colors on it, that is a full listing of the network based on the AI prioritization. Kevin and Brian have added the street classifications, and again, there's going to be a human element that they'll continue to interject, and we'll talk about moving forward with the two identified projects still, which is East Meyer and North Meyer. However, if we do have the ability to get grants, the sheet in front of you will allow us a systematic way to come back and, with those surplus funds, still continue to tackle the network in the most needed streets. That concludes those. Any questions?
Yeah, I got some. I have one.
Go ahead.
So, in driving around Seabrook, the street I think that is the worst street in all of Seabrook is Bahama Drive, behind the Miramar Shopping Center. That's been bad for a long time.
That is a private street.
That is a private street? Oh, okay. So that's not part of our city? Okay.
There's there's two segments of Bahama, one that's in the Miramar section, and then there's one behind the townhomes. The one behind the townhomes is private.
So I've got a question, Gail. On, up to the 50% condition mark, that takes us to Fifth Street, I guess. Up to that point, that totals what? About 28 million?
Yes. And as you recall, I think there was some discussion in the summer is we can't forget.
I'm just adding it in my head, but
Yeah, no,
it's
it's.
like about $28 million.
Yeah, it is. But by identifying, grants, opportunities that come up, we'll be ready. As you all remember during Ike, a lot of infrastructure money comes in after streets are completely inundated. So having this ready, having a plan in place, if additional funds were to come in place, we'd love to replace all of them on here, but we can't, so we just have to start prioritizing.
Do you know what the total is up to the 65% mark?
Do not.
Totaled?
You don't have it with you? Okay.
Yeah, since I think it's actually almost 58 million.
Well,
So we have $58 million worth of road work that is substandard in our city?
Well, again, there's two components that we want to make sure council's aware. We're running the AI software that identifies some of the faults within either the sub-base or the top, and you guys jump up on, fill in for me. But I think there's, you guys are going to continue to do the site visits, and some of these are going to have to be worked out in a formal program. So this is our first stab at returning to.
I
that
understand.
we've got.
Looking at the breadth of what we have here.
Yeah.
Or what we don't have.
and this analysis takes the entire street as a condition. It takes the average of the entire street condition, and that's what that is. There may be some sections of the street that are in good condition, and some that are in really bad condition. And in the program, we can go in there, and if we wanted to section the street.
And just patch?
We could. Patch, or it could be a block length, that kind of thing.
Okay,
But in the analysis you have in front of you is the
the total street,
entire street.
okay. Including drainage?
No drainage, nope, that's on waste.
Well, it says drainage. It says removal and replacement at $1,136 per linear feet at 50-foot wide concrete and drainage.
That is whenever I did my cost estimate, yes. That doesn't come from the software. That's my cost estimate. So in that aspect, on that column, yes. For concrete, drainage, I used a cost per linear foot to calculate that ultimate cost.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah, I have one more. I guess I noticed on Hammer, you guys went out there and put that tar between all the cracks. I think that was, that's another way, that saved that road to keep that water from going down underneath, so.
Yeah, we crack sealed when we noticed those kind of areas. We crack sealed pretty much all around City Hall.
Right, okay.
That's in our, that $50,000 maintenance budget. That's what the city can do, that and patches where we can.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Have y'all put together, or are you putting together a timeline for when these projects have got to start and where?
So this is our first stab at creating a pavement management program that when we go into CIP, we obviously don't want to transfer all those streets over. We would prioritize and then pick a couple to move into the CIP, and then we would put a fiscal year based on funding that we believe that we can do that particular fiscal year moving forward.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, what you're going to do is take all these streets and say, this is the year that we're budgeting for and the cost for it.
Right, and the CIP will be the tool. The pavement analysis where all the streets are listed, we won't have 58 million, so we're going to keep the whole network separate, but we'll grade those and continue to grade them and always have that ready.
Okay.
Rob?
Real quickly, Kevin, kudos to you and your team for putting this together. This is a great way of being able to look at it. It's a little bit frightening with 51%, where it is, and the money we're going to need in years 8 to 15 to keep this from getting to be a severe problem. But that's the kind of visibility that all of us need. Thank you very much for doing it. Exceptional work.
I have another question. If we put this on a burner over a, 10-year period, the streets that are back here in good condition now are going to move forward and deteriorate.
Gotcha.
So and we've been funding how much? Usually about $4 to $6 million a year in street repair on the budget? Is that about?
I'm not
Right.
sure. I think it's only-
50,000.
Well, 50,000
yeah.
this year, but we've been doing a lot more street work than that, usually.
For doing the crack seal
Crack seal,
and those patches, asphalt patches,
In that budget.
traditionally, we have not. And part of doing this program is to identify where we can do sealants quicker than letting the road get into deteriorated condition and having a whole rehab. That's more costly of what you're seeing on this upper portion. So right now, looking back, when we were putting this presentation together, over the last 10 years, we've only invested anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 a year to doing street rehab. So again, this is kind of bringing forward, if we want to do a complete,
Seems like we're
program.
getting CO every year.
Yes.
And every street has a
$20 million.
design life. Eventually, it's going to have to be redone. Eventually.
Right, right.
The streets that are listed on here, it looks like pretty much old Seabrook, that are in the worst condition. Are those original? Is that original pavement, or they've been paved any time, Kevin? Have we redone those at all, other than Main?
Yes, we've had asphalt overlay projects in Old Seabrook, but let me just say, we do have that, what's now at $50,000 annually, that's in materials cost. So obviously, we're doing the labor portion of it. We'll do Hardesty, you probably have seen the last couple of years. We did a block, like Brian mentioned. Most recently, in front of the baseball fields, we did a patch, because some of those were pulling vehicles to the right, to the side. Those are to get us through to the CIP projects, but probably most recently, you've seen Lidstone was a CIP project. You've seen Toddville was a CIP project. Those were called out years ago, projects that we looked at that we were able to accomplish in these last couple of years. It's not just the $50,000 annually that we use for materials cost. The crack sealing is included with that. Asphalt patching is included with that. But to answer your question, yes, there's been a lot of grant opportunities over the years. There's been Better Streets to Neighborhood projects coming along from the county, which are fantastic. We've overlaid Myers, both the Myers with that type of funding. We did Old Seabrook. We did quite a bit in Miramar years ago on those same type of programs. But asphalt overlays, you may get 10 years from. I think the maintenance programs that we have in place extend the life of those. That's what you see is, well, why are these asphalt streets 30, 40, even 50 years old? They really outlived their life expectancy, but it's from good maintenance, and it's good. It's lower volumes of traffic. What we've seen along both Myers were such a dramatic downturn in degrading of that material because of both the detour from 146 traffic and then the extreme heat this last year just buckled roads. Grounds were shifting, opens up the cracks in the roads, penetrates to the subsurface, and you lose it really quickly. County's got quite a few roads in Seabrook that are in disrepair. We're trying to get them to partner up with us and get some of those repaired too, but it's ongoing and it's fluid. It's a moving target on some of the assessments that we do. That's why using this technology as a supporting tool, along with what we've seen and what we've already identified, and to move those things around. You may recognize, $20+ million and immediate 51%, you say, in that category. Some of those are really low volume streets that we can better prioritize. It's not just the assessment of the condition, it's also taking in mind the cost and the need. So we identify the Meyer and Meyer as a higher need because of not just the detour traffic that was on it, but I think those traffic volumes are here to stay. We'll get the traffic going back on 146, but that is a thoroughfare now. Coming through years and years ago, that was just a 2-lane asphalt street, like many of our roads in Seabrook, that now need to be upgraded to concrete to better handle the traffic and the volumes and the weight that we're now seeing.
Neither of those are county roads.
They're not. The county was able to overlay them as part of a partnership project where they took them into their logs for a day, was able to accomplish the project and then give them back to the city. And that type of project is still something we can look into.
I called Commissioner Garcia and told him they did a crappy job and I needed it done again.
It's about time they redo them, yeah.
We don't own that street.
It's been quite a few years, but that type of partnership is still out there.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, comments, criticisms? Thanks. No, good job, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. .2, consider and take all appropriate action on matters related to the presentation of the city's financial advisor regarding the issuance of debt for general obligation bonds and certificates of obligation.
All right, Mayor and Council, we have our bond counsel and financial advisor present with us. I want to go over some of the details leading up post-bond and also looking at certificates of obligation.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Mayor, council members, John Roebuck, BOK Financial Securities, I'm your financial advisor. We put together a presentation for the financing plan and the schedule of events for the sale of the authorized bonds that were approved by voters in November, and also for the $10 million of certificates of obligation that we were just talking about. On page 1 of the presentation is an overview of the bond buyer index. This is basically a weekly snapshot of the municipal bond market. On the far right, you'll see a blue line with a blue number, 3.31%. That's the general obligation index. That's kind of a snapshot of where we are with general obligation or tax-backed debt. That's actually gone up about 9 basis points. It's about 3.4 right now because we put this together last week and Thursday, the new number came out. With CPI numbers increasing, about 2 weeks ago, we've seen a little bit increase in yields, but we've also seen a large decrease over the last month or 2 months because inflationary fears have kind of subsided. On the next page, we have the estimated debt service requirements of both of the bonds and the certificates of obligation. The far left is your current debt service requirements on an annual basis, and then we took out your debt that's supported by water and sewer, the EDC, and then the principal and estimated principal and interest for the bonds. And again, for the bonds, we'll generate proceeds of $4,305,000. And then for the certificates of obligation, we'll generate $10 million in proceeds for the street projects. And there's the estimated principal interest. And then for the total resulting tax-supported debt service requirements here on the far right. Now, to accomplish this, on the next page, we put together a tentative schedule of events. Tonight, we're giving you the financing plan. We're also going to ask you to approve a notice of intent to publish a notice of intent in the paper and also on your website to basically a 45-day notice to voters and to taxpayers that we're going to issue those COs. Those will run for 45 days. So we have a 45-day notice period before we can sell the bonds. And then we'll come back to you guys after we get the offering statement done and also have calls with the rating companies. We'll come back to the results of the sale on Tuesday, March 19th, and ask you to approve both the bonds and the COs. And then we'll close about 30 days later, at which point you'll receive your funds for those projects. Marcus Dietz, your bond counsel, is here. He's the one that drafted the notice we're asking you to approve tonight. I'm sure he'll answer your questions you have about the notice, and I'll be happy to answer questions you have on the financing plan.
Any questions? How do you think the primaries are going to affect the rating? I mean, we're doing it right in the middle of them.
Yeah, good question. Usually during a presidential election year, the rates stay relatively stable because no one wants to cause a change in the primaries or the election. We're kind of different situation right now with inflation is where it is. There's talk that the Fed's going to lower rates. I'm not sure what's going to happen after CPI.
Well, yeah, you don't have a crystal ball. But I was just curious if you felt that primaries are going to have it.
I don't. Hopefully it doesn't. It hasn't really in the past, but we'll see what happens. Every election cycle is a little different.
Thank you. Anybody else? Great. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we need to vote on the resolution.
Actually covered
I'm sorry.
5.2, 5.3,
Okay,
5.4, sorry.
no problem. 5.3, consider and take all appropriate action on the approval of proposed resolution 2024-01, authorizing the publication of notice for intent to issue certificates of obligation. Resolution authorizing publication of notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation, Series 2024, for the design, acquisition, construction, and improvement of certain public works, and authorizing certain other matters related hereto.
Move to approve 5.3.
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. 5.4, consider and take all appropriate action on resolutions 2024-02, declaring an intention to reimburse project expenditures, including but not limited to the Seabrook Fire Station, fire engine, and fire training tower projects, in a total amount not to exceed $4,305,000. Resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred.
Move to approve 5.4.
Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. 5.5, consider and take all appropriate action on the annual budget request for the Public Safety Fund as recommended by the task force. Kevin?
Mayor, Council, Public Safety Fund budget is presented to council each year to approve the expenditures for the year. The funds come from the water bill, which is $3 charge per month per meter, and is an opt-out basis. The only funds historically spent on those collected throughout the previous year, minus a 10% amount that are set aside for a reserve. The amount received was $111,188, giving the task force a budget of $97,642 for the year. The task force has a budget which includes items to be purchased for the public safety agencies. These agencies include the police department, the fire department, public works, EMS, the fire marshal's office, and emergency management, which also includes base cert. This year's request totaled $100,309.14. The Public Safety Committee identified all requests to be appropriate and justified, and the approval will leave a healthy reserve balance of $809.66.
I got a question. Do we track year to year how the fund goes up and down? I mean, is it hold pretty steady, or do we have a, it's been increasing? Cool, great.
Move to approve 5.5.
All in favor? It's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Consider, I'm sorry, 5.6, consider and take all appropriate action on an engineering service proposal from Cobb Finley for CIP Project W31 Seascape Waterline in the amount not to exceed $234,600, and authorize the city manager to execute the associated documents. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve 5.6.
Discussion? No discussion. Thanks, Brian. All in favor?
Yeah.
Great job.
5.7, consider and take all appropriate action on an engineering services proposal from Cobb Finley for CIP projects WW14, the lift station, number 5 force main improvements, and WW21 Pine Gully LS, main force bore, in the amount not to exceed $181,600.
Move to approve 5.7.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks.
5.8, consider and take all appropriate action on the first and final reading of ordinance 2024-02, the year-end budget amendment for fiscal year 2023. An ordinance amending the amount of appropriation for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023 by authorizing certain additions in the amount of $3,671,005.27 for general expenditures, hotel tax, crime district, public safety, hotel occupancy tax fund, park and impact fund, animal shelter debt service fund, PEG fund, and general vehicle equipment replacement fund. Authorizing the city manager to take all actions necessary to facilitate the changes identified and finding available unencumbered funds for the supplemental appropriation and/or reserve reduction.
Move to approve 5.8.
This is just rolling over, right?
Correct. The one thing to note on this one is, apology, I'm looking, we do have the emergency repair in this one. The next one, okay, I'm sorry, yeah. So this is,
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. 5.9, consider and take all appropriate action on the first and final reading of ordinance 2024-03, amending the operating special revenue and capital improvement fund budgets for fiscal year 2024. An ordinance amending the amount of appropriations for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024 by authorizing certain additions in the amount of $849,980.67 for general fund, step fund, public safety fund, hotel occupancy fund, enterprise fund, capital fund 29, crime district fund, and PEG fund, authorizing the city manager to take all actions necessary to facilitate the changes identified and finding available unencumbered funds for the supplemental appropriation and/or reserve reduction.
Move to approve 5.9.
Any discussion?
Mayor and council, I'll just interject on this one. And Mike, if you want to kind of fill in, we call this our rollover ordinance, so things that did not get completed in the last fiscal year. But one thing to note on this page that is new is the project that we identified along Main Street. We had an emergency wastewater repair. So as part of the rollover, we do have $200,000 identified in this ordinance, and that is for the emergency repairs that we're asking for a budget amendment that's incorporated in that. Mike, if you want to speak to the other.
It's taken out of the rollover. They're taking those repairs, that money just out of this rollover?
Well, essentially, it is a rollover. I mean, we do the year-end budget amendment to be in line when the independent auditors come in next month to look over our financials. But it's also to show y'all the reductions where those funds were set aside to be expended, but due to whatever have not occurred. And so then this budget amendment here before you tonight on our FY24 budget is taking those funds and encumbering them in this budget cycle. As Gail said, the $200,000 is one of the exceptions in that that we had an emergency on Main Street with our sewer system. So all the other elements are really outstanding purchase orders where the goods weren't delivered. Our ambulance is being delivered this week, one of them. Okay, relatively soon. Not in last year's budget. That's one of the big expenses that got moved over into this year's budget amendment.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. 6.0, routine business. 6.1, city manager update and report to city council on various items that require no action, including Seabrook boards and commissions, State Highway 146 expansion project, Port of Houston rail spur, City of Seabrook CIP projects, and any City of Seabrook grant administration. That sentence doesn't make sense. Gail.
All right, Mayor and Council, since our last meeting, we did take a tour of the elevated on 146. We let the mayor move some barricades for us on the street. And
I'm good at moving.
yeah, you're really good. Got some good views. These are a couple of snapshots that we put out. I did forward to you that TxDOT and Weber have moved the opening from what we were looking at the end of January now until I put here late February, but right now it's February 23rd for a potential ribbon cutting. So right now, we're in the planning stages that will be probably somewhere on the elevated structure. So this is not really going to be a public event, but more for the agencies. And we'll have more information coming out as we're working with Weber and TxDOT. We're continuing on the Green Ribbon TxDOT landscaping project. Touched base with those folks today, and TxDOT has moved that to their March month letting. So they'll probably be letting the project sometime in March. So hopefully we'll start to see crews still in target around April, early May on the landscaping. We had a meeting as an update to the boat ramp replacement that we've been working with TxDOT. They did formally let us know that, surprise, the boat ramp is not in this TxDOT project. It's been separated completely out. And they have employed LJA Engineering. We met with LJA, and they have extensively looked at the land and the access that we have remaining from where the old boat ramp was out, as you see on the right, and what we have left. And they, with the understanding there's still a lot of fill that they have to take out per an Army Corps permit. So once that is complete, there was very limited access. We had originally told council that we would be coming back with possibly public input, multiple options. That is not an option. There's really only one footprint that the engineers can find that's going to work. So they're going to proceed with that footprint that they found to try to go ahead and go through the lengthy process with the Corps Corps in getting permits started that can range anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. So we'll see where we fall in between that. And we'll start to release a little bit more information on the footprint. But right now, it's just limited based on what they came back with. But we do still have an option to get something back in that area. TxDOT did communicate to us that they are going to pay for that. The city does not need to worry about a match, a local match that will make us whole and get that put back in place. So we'll forward any information that we get. At this point, they're going to start getting into a little bit more on the design and get the permit application ready.
There is still a chance that the Corps will come back and not allow that in that location.
Yeah.
Because of environmental impact.
Oh, you're saying that they could come back and say no?
Corps could. Corps may reject the,
It's a-
could reject the,
Yeah, it's a different footprint. Again, on the right, you can see it's where we had the boat ramp originally. They're going to have to come much closer to the channel to put a boat ramp approach out. So it'll be closer to the channel. The access will be great. Dredging and the configuration of it's going to have to be very different. So
no, we missed the pipes.
We missed the point?
It has to do with Phil. Okay, any questions? Anything else?
Are we done?
6.2.
Oh, wait, a couple more things, sorry. Boards and commissions, I'll just run through this very quickly, and then I have just a couple other items to touch on. As a recap to the boards and commissions, since our last meeting, you've had the Open Space and Trails Committee meet, had various committee discussions on tree removals, park items, and some solar lighting. I think some of you participated in their tree planting event that was very successful. P&Z did not meet in January, and then we had an EDC board meeting here recently. Officer nominations and approvals were no changes to those officers. EDC did approve moving forward with a new video and advertising campaign in which a video will be released and multiple advertisements, trying to kind of jump on the completion of Highway 146 and highlighting a lot of our available sites. We'll also be looking at trying to do some additional training and economic development strategic plans that will come back to council in their own separate workshop. Board of Adjustment also met last night in regards to the lot that's in front of the Holiday Inn for a variance on the lot width. So that was approved and granted, and that's a duplication. As a recap, we're working on still multiple active grants ranging from the Helmet Shield Grant Program to several of the FEMA grants. We met with that FEMA grant administrator manager today. Where FEMA has still not moved our 4 generators that we have in that application process very far, but we are hoping still that we'll get those before we need to replace any of our generators. And then the ARPA funding as well. The Port Houston Rail Spur, they are continuing to hold project meetings with our staff. They have postponed that connection that traverses there at the 146. They still need to put that in. It's dependent on the Union Pacific getting back and making the tie-in with the area that's just off the screen here. But Union Pacific needs to do their part before the port contractor can get back in and finish the actual spur. Again, the section there on Red Bluff will at some point be removed once the spur goes live. Wastewater plant, this is a current shot from our cameras today, and it's coming along very well. We have some significant deliveries and a significant delivery that we're still waiting on, but Kevin and Brian have been working with the contractors and our contract engineer to keep everything on target and try to rearrange and prioritize the manpower that we still have on site while we're waiting for a couple of the components. But looking good and still looking at spring to go live on that project. Lot of activity, and we're kind of reaching the last phase on the bore for the water line that went under Taylor Lake. So you've seen a lot of activity there by the condos just by Boardwalk after you come over the bridge. Final connections to the bore section have been made, and we're waiting on a few things on our side. Then they'll begin testing of the water before we go live. And we're anticipating late February for that, and no disruptions to service. So interconnect, no change on this one. If you go back towards Old 146, we are working on trying to again acquire in that acryl mainly area to get some additional right-of-way. This would be a second interconnect that we would be able to attain, giving us that inner loop throughout our water network system. Same thing on this one. This is our frontage road. Going back north on 146, you'll start to see some blue pipe emerging. So there is a line that's coming down the right-of-way on 146. Another contractor that's going to traverse and go under 146, in which this project will go off-hold and we'll plug in and have our second interconnect. These projects we've recently seen on agendas, so no further updates on these. And I'm going to go through to our CenterPoint project. This is the CenterPoint project that CenterPoint's doing for a substation. We did receive word of the CenterPoint address that they have now established a web page that they'll put information about the project. Peaking today, as you can see, it's got a December date. Contacted them, and they are planning on trying to keep this updated a little bit more, but as of today, this was the screenshot. I was asking them also about the promised email, contact us, and that's not located on this site as well. They have decided that they will not have that embedded in this site. If there's any comments, complaints, or concerns, they can still contact the city or CenterPoint directly. This is an updated imagery that we have with our subscription that we're able to grab. So you can see that on the far right, the detention pond has been significantly dug out. The drainage has started. And then on the left, the pad site for the actual substation has been prepped up with the groundwork. In speaking with them today, the wall is going to get broke into two phases. Phase one would be what we call around the dome home till just around the curve. They've started setting foundations, the vertical pillars, and then delivery of those wall panels will be coming shortly. So phase one, they said that they will start to get the wall in place as quickly as they can here right in front of the substation. As they continue to work on the detention pond, this will be a phase two that they'll finish the foundations and get the fence all the way around the detention pond connecting with phase one. This week, amongst the rain, I think some of us have received emails, but there was temporary wooden poles delivered there by the daycare center, asking them about that, along with the workers that have been out along Red Bluff. They plan to do two things. They're going to erect those temporary wooden poles, and that is going to be a temporary connection that they will utilize at some point. And then they have fiberglass poles that are going behind the homes, parallel to Red Bluff. That is in a utility easement. So we have had reports that they have had trucks on Loganberry, but they do have utility easements that dissect those properties. So they are going through the utility easements. They, in response to the complaints I've forwarded to them, they are promising to come back and fix the yards in which they've kind of crossed to get to the easements. And they have not had flaggers, so we have told them to abide by that and put flaggers when the trucks are on the street. So they're hoping not to be in that area too much longer, but that was to do the work for getting the permanent fiberglass poles up. Lastly, the date of getting this done by May has slid. They are now projecting July, August for a full completion of the project.
Is there any schedule that we get that's true?
Any questions?
Anybody?
I'd just like to add one thing for the next agenda. Is this the time? Can we add to discuss the feeding of the wildlife on the next agenda with council? The feeding of the wildlife.
Hey, I'd like to get an update next meeting on the pier and the Margaritaville.
If you could add in there, update on the petition of the land down by the swimming pool.
The what?
The partitioning of the land down by the swimming pool.
The
Good point.
Frisbee golf course.
I didn't hear what Jackie said.
I wanted to discuss the feeding of the wildlife ordinance.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, like what all of the residents came in to talk about tonight.
Okay. Anything else? 6.2, establish future meeting dates and agenda items. We have a little bit of an issue. Oh, you go ahead.
Just announcing that the next regular council meeting is scheduled for February 6th at 6 PM. That I believe you have discussion.
Yes, that's Men Who Cook. But we do have a notice that went out for a project, right?
We do, Sean, we made contact with the applicant if there's any.
I attempted to make contact with the applicant. I hadn't heard back from them, but they haven't submitted any plans or anything. So I think if we do postpone that item, a 2-week delay is probably not going to affect them.
Do we have to renotice everybody?
We will have to renotice that, yes. So if we move that from that agenda, then we'll have to renotice it for the February meeting, the second February meeting.
Well, can't we just go the next day?
No, we got to
The public notices.
did a public notice for that specific date and
For
time.
what was the, who did?
It's the preliminary PUD for the warehouse
Oh, okay.
project out off of Red Bluff in Old 146.
I don't understand.
And Mayor and council, we do also, if considering moving that, we have a resolution that is needed to be kind of timely. So from staff, if it's a movement, we'd like to look at the 7th.
The 7th?
That's what I just said.
That's not the next day. That's,
Yeah, the next day.
yeah, but they got to get they got to notice though.
Right. But if we can, because I'm going to be there, I think Rob's going to be at Men Who Cook. I know you usually are, Tom. That's 3 of us for sure. Gina Grosso goes, so there's 4 guys right there.
I'm going to be there, that's 5 guys.
That's,
Well, I think they might be there, see the 5 guys.
I could accommodate the 7th.
Yeah,
I understand the challenges in resending the notice out, and whether or not we would be able to hear that PUD on the 7th, or it would have to be delayed to the next one.
Yeah.
But if you still don't have paperwork on it, if you still don't have plans, then pushing it to the next one's not a big deal. But I'm perfectly fine with the 7th.
Yeah.
okay. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Okay, I move to change the meeting date from February the 6th to February the 7th.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess we just established. Okay, do I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? 7:43.
I know.